Well, it is absolutely scorching hot outside, ladies and gentlemen, and I think that you'll find that the action here in the Overwatch scene is much the same right now. Despite the fact that things are heating up, we've got ice-cold competitors here ready to go at Season 5 of the FACEIT League in the Masters Division, all the way up here at the top. My name is Kaizo. I'm going to be taking you guys through this journey of our matchup for tonight, which is going to be ILIAD Artemis up against Dreamland. And this is one that I've had my eye on for just quite a bit because it really is a clash of two different worlds between these two teams. Very different paths through the season to get to where they're at right now. ILIAD Artemis, a team that's somewhere around the middle of the pack performance-wise for the duration of the regular season to get to this point right now. And across the way, Dreamland, man, our #1 seed here in the Masters Division, they've been on an absolute tear. However, is worth noting that just recently, in their most recent matchup, there's been some stumbles along the way. Dreamland, a team that looked very dominant throughout the majority of the regular season, now beginning to transition toward the playoffs, toward this last week or two of competition, and they have dropped sets in 2 of their last 3 sets, which is very important for a team like Dreamland, who have been kind of dominating all the way throughout this point. And across the way, ILIAD Artemis, they're definitely on the up and up. If you take a look at what their performance has been coming into this matchup, they're on a 2-0 win streak here. Their last 2 matchups, they've looked phenomenal in, took away some very key victories in pushing their way toward the playoffs. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about, trying to make sure that you're one of those top 8 teams. Definitely Dreamland are sitting quite pretty in that conversation at the #1 seed. Across the way, ILIAD Artemis, they have been a little bit behind the curve, currently tied for that 11-12 seed, so a couple of spots outside the bubble puts it so that they are not particularly poised to move forward here. But anything can change here in the later stages. The Cinderella stories are not over just yet. The clock has not struck midnight, and it's not too late for a team to make a late season run toward that playoffs. It is going to be on ILIAD to determine whether or not they're capable of demonstrating that competitive spirit, the kind of functional integrity that you really need to push yourself past this point in the regular season and make your way over and into that playoffs. Let's take a look at some of these rosters, though, because ILIAD Artemis coming in here, a team that has been together for quite some time. They have had a vast array of different placements. I mean, they've been together for what feels like years, because it has been years. And the only new addition is Azu has only been here for about 2 months. But the core of this roster has been together for a number of years. They have grand finals appearances. They placed 8th in the Overwatch Competitive Series Season 1 qualifier. FACEIT placements, hundreds and hundreds of dollars of prize money won. Top performances in the Kick Dragon Blade tournament, Overwatch Season 5 Open Division. I mean, this is a star-studded roster that is not at all opposed to getting mixed up here at the end of the season and demonstrating what they've got. And across the way, going back over to Dreamland, again, a team that has been on fire up until recently. They got extinguished in the most recent matchup. They played against Midori, and in that best of 5, they only took 1 game off of Midori, which is a little bit surprising to those of us who have been keeping an eye on the Masters Division and monitoring their progress all the way throughout. Because Midori, once again, one of these middle-of-the-pack kind of teams like ILIAD Artemis, who we didn't really expect to put up a ton of a great fight against Dreamland, but taking away that victory in the most recent head-to-head between these two means that there is definitely hope on the horizon for a team like ILIAD. And it does mean that this is going to be a big talking point for not only the integrity of the Dreamland roster, but for the playoff hopes, for the future ambitions of ILIAD Artemis. You really need to be able to, as the #1 seed, separate yourself from those middle-of-the-pack teams that there are going to be a dime a dozen of. Really, ILIAD Artemis on the up and up, trying to fight their way out of the bowels of these rankings and make their way toward that #8 spot. We will be getting into the game pretty shortly here, as we do take a look what the potential maps would be here. Of course, we're going to probably be starting out with the control, and that is going to be a Busan Ilios Oasis pool. What I think is much more interesting here, rather than the map picks, rather than the bans, is those hero bans. That's what I'm going to be, that's what I'm going to be keeping my eye on as we get underway here shortly, and taking a look at what these rosters are going to stack up like, because it is sort of a protective kind of style for the bans. You get a lot of ability to safeguard one of your own picks if you do end up in a situation where you really got to keep your eye on one of these available picks. You can ban out a tank, and then the other team doesn't have that same option. It does look like we're going to get our first look at what the next map is going to look like. Oasis going to be our home for game number 1 here between these two teams. Keep in mind, this is going to be a best of 5. So between ILIAD, Artemis, and Dreamland, it'll be a bit of a longer one. Definitely some time to go the distance. I think that if you're on the Dreamland side of things, really hoping to wrap this one up in 3 games, take it home, maybe have a beer at the end of the night and get ready for the next one. Across the way, ILIAD Artemis, you gotta imagine that they want this one to go long. They want to see everything that Dreamland has available as they go ahead and take Baptiste off the table, make Dreamland go to a different selection. It is going to be, once again, Oasis, as we are waiting on the selection for Dreamland. Of course, with a support character banned by ILIAD Artemis, that protects if they have a Lucio or a Kiriko that they really want to keep an eye on and make sure that that one doesn't go by the wayside. Dreamland, see what homework they've done here, and whether or not they're capable of pinpointing what has been making this ILIAD Artemis composition look so strong in these last couple of weeks. I really don't want to undersell the fact that coming in off of a 2-game win streak, you've got all the momentum behind you, you've got plenty of green grass in front of you with the playoffs coming up in just a couple of weeks in the middle of July. They've got plenty left to demonstrate here against Dreamland. They are taking an extra moment or two to just make sure that they go through all of the available options. Of course, as I mentioned previously, can't go for another support ban, but could go to take away one of these bigger tank options that I know a lot of these teams like to direct their attention toward, because that tank role really does feel like the linchpin in a lot of these compositions. If you can throw a hole in things, take away a shield character, or maybe prevent them from getting something that has effective crowd control, if that's all you've been practicing, if you've only been playing behind the Reinhardt shield, or you've been picking people with Roadhog in the scrims, and that's all that you've been able to do, you definitely want to make sure that you can take those away from the opposition, not end up in a situation where you're forced to face those down. With Baptiste off the table, going to likely be a much more aggressive option taken away here. And actually, speaking of tanks, it is going to be Hazard taken off the field. And I like this a lot. When you're in the later stages of the season, you don't have to pretend that you have everything completely down. I don't at all mind teams recognizing that, you know, we might have a bit of hubris here. We don't want to say that we know all of the ins and outs of Hazard just yet. Once we get to scrims, maybe that's when we start to play around the Hazard a bit more. Now that we are in one of these all-important week-long matchups, these are the ones that you got to keep your eye on. Make sure that you don't let anything get through that you aren't prepared for. So no Hazard, says Dreamland. No Baptiste, says ILIAD Artemis. Oasis going to be the spot for game number 1. So we do get underway here between these two teams and start off what could be a long night if ILIAD Artemis has their way. Of course, Dreamland looking to really repair a lot of their own momentum, because these are the teams that, in theory, on paper, you should be beating if you're Dreamland. But that's why we play the game, folks. That's why we keep everything right here in front of you. We're ready to bring you every single drop of action that comes underway. It is going to be a brief moment of reprieve as we get to take a look at both of these team compositions. So Orisa going to be the selection for Dreamland for that tank. Keep in mind they took away the Hazard, so that's not going to be an option for either squad. Across the way, Maverick on the Diva. Then I'm looking at the support opportunities as well. Baptiste was the ban from ILIAD Artemis, so instead of that Baptiste, they are going to go for the Kiriko and the Lucio. Bit of a older school team. I haven't been seeing quite as much of the Lucio. It's been a lot more of the Juno recently, starting to transition away from some of those other options that we saw in the earlier stages here. So it is going to be Maverick trying to vie for some positioning here on the high ground, really keeping them in this choke point, preventing them from getting their way through. Zone due to unlock in about 5 seconds, so Pella is going to be pushing forward, and it is going to be on Industrial and the rest of the crew to get involved early on, and Maverick will be taken down very quickly. Pancray gets the first one. Tracer on Tracer, Violence now manually up here on the Sojourn. Plenty of high ground to work with, but plenty of danger yet below as well. And it is still contested, but it looks like Dreamland are going to be the ones that are responsible for unlocking this control point first of all. They lose Hanbei in the process, but already getting to tick up that percentage. Very big, very important task for them. Pancray is here on the left-hand side, trying to whittle away at some of these health bars of Dreamland. Pella has taken a decent amount of damage. They don't seem to really know that Pancray is behind them, and because of that, they are losing about half of their health bar, but question is, where is the assistance here from ILIAD Artemis? They don't seem to be able to penetrate their way through. A Duck on Quack does manage to bring down one of those ADC characters, as Talisman will take a spill here, but once again, just not enough to break their way through. And Pella is holding down this point, not giving it up. Good javelin there, will keep a Duck on Quack outside, and here comes the Orisa ultimate. Pella will take down Sojourn, and now going directly on top of the Diva. There goes the mech. Diva herself likely soon to follow. Maverick will have to fall back, but it's only a matter of time, it feels like, before everything falls apart. If you don't have the front line, you don't have anything. And Dreamland with a clean fight there, continuing to protect their point, push this ILIAD Artemis roster even farther back. I mean, this is tragic stuff here when you're trapped in your own spawn. That does mean that they are spread pretty thin. Pancray on this right-hand side. Ultimate economy is definitely least even. I was going to say in favor of Artemis, but going to need to push some of those big buttons, it feels like, if you want to make your way in. 83%. Now on the point, and a good flank here. Manually takes some big damage and will be taken down. Pella will get the answer back, but the Duck on Quack ultimate is very big here. Hanbei jumps in. Hanbei gets put down. Maverick and the rest of the boys are pushing their way through. Here comes the Kiriko while trying to contest the point, and they have the Diva ult available, but Orisa pushes them all the way back out, and Pella can only watch as Maverick flies back over the top and trying to secure this point. Overtime, 99%, folks, and all 5 members of ILIAD Artemis made their way to the point. It took 99 of the 100 available percent. ILIAD Artemis do finally make their way onto this point and get that recapture. Let's see how long they can hang on to this one. Do still have the Diva ult available, Tracer with the ult as well. It is going to be an immediate contest here. Pela's already on the point, has manually in backup. Can't quite find the melee there. Will end up taking a spill as a result. Industrial goes down. That's a lot of healing missing now from ILIAD Artemis. They take out both healers. Pella is wreaking havoc off the point. Not needed in the pit, just doing whatever they want. And it is only one lone support. Maverick drops the ult, trying to clear out this point, but can't manage to find anybody. They have to just buy time, trying to let their rest of their team come in like sheep to the slaughter. And it is going to be ILIAD Artemis. 33% taken their way, but it feels like it's only a matter of time before they end up losing their final member on the point. Dreamland. Bit of a hiccup in the middle. An all-around pretty good, pretty solid fight from them. And that will be round 1 in the bag now for Dreamland. We'll be back on ILIAD Artemis to strike back here. We'll take another look at some of these plays. Here's once again where Pella just completely dominant outside the pit. And a great flank here from Pancray. Couldn't quite manage to convert off of that one. I think that the Orisa is really the selling point of this roster. They had so much good value all throughout that one. They didn't die a single time. And if you can keep your tank alive throughout the entirety of a game, it's incredibly impressive stuff. It gives your team so much more space to work with. It will be a Symmetra teleport here as we get underway in game number 2. Still on Oasis, still Dreamland, still ILIAD Artemis. The only thing that's changed is the score between them. Dreamland already walked away with one game to keep up some of that momentum, not allow ILIAD Artemis to make their way back in here. It is going to be a stick around for the D.Va, not going to swap that one up. Pella on this Orisa has the point, has the space to work with here. As Dreamland trying to take shots from the sideline manually, has a great angle here and takes down Industrial. Lucio going down means a lot of sustain now missing from the squad, chasing out this D.Va. Will have to be careful of that defense matrix, but hang on, has the backup coming in. Pella getting one of their own, taking down this D.Va. Without a tank, it is going to be very challenging for ILIAD Artemis to make their way in. No matter how fancy they can get with the footwork, at the end of the day, you need somebody to stand in front of you and just soak up some of those shots. So we will see them beginning secondary approach here. Duck on Quack has swapped off the Sojourn and going instead for a bit more of an artillery style, a bit more of a precision shooter, and actually getting great value out of it, manually taken down. This might be the first step for Pella as well. Narwhal gets taken out as well. Industrial credited with that one. They've got ultimates starting to get online, chasing down the Sarissa. Finally, they managed to take down the tank from Dreamland, and like dominoes, the rest of the squad falls in suit. Dreamland lose control of the point much sooner here in game number 2 than they did in game 1. You can see Talisman looking for an opportunity to get their way back in here. Doesn't have the rest of the team to play support, play backup. So will be playing this hit and run style. And ILIAD Artemis, great pit control here. They do have a flank coming in from this Tracer. There's big damage onto the back line. It doesn't look like anybody knows or at least is able to contest just yet. And that pit still ticking up in favor of the blue. But it is feeling like Dreamland beginning to make their way in here. Industrial with another great shutdown onto Pella, who switches off to the Ramatra, and Hanbei gets a precision kill onto Pankare. But without Pella on this Ramatra, I mean, it's going to be hard for them to make their way in. Now, Duck on Quack looked great on the Sojourn, but now looking perhaps even better here in game number 2. It's ILIAD Artemis beginning to tick up that percentage well past the halfway point, and have already lapped in percentage what Dreamland were capable of putting out. They've got D.Va ult, they've got the Lucio ult at ready if they need it. It will be manually here now, trying to use those railgun shots. Here comes the Lucio ult, and they're trying to push everybody back. This seems to be the moment, the go button here for Dreamland. Narwhal burns the ult. It doesn't look like they've gotten a whole lot of value out of it. In fact, manually will get taken down. Another great shot. Hang on! A Duck is certainly on Quack right now. There's 2 in a row for them. Call it 3 as Pella falls. Hang 4 in a... Are you kidding me? Hanbei falls as well. Only 1 left to play defense for Dreamland. And I gotta tell you, this swap up has been the world of difference for ILIAD Artemis. They looked down and out at certain times in game number 1, looking incredibly dominant. No ultimates available for Dreamland. Here in game number 2, overtime ticks on, and that point is contested. They can't afford to get a hand off of it. It's like Mr. Beast trying to give you a Ferrari. If you leave it, if you take your hand off it, you won't have it. And Pella is still alive this time around. Maverick is off the point, now goes directly on top of the Ramatra, and it is going to be an ult coming out as well. Tries to dash out of the way, buying space with the D.Va ultimate. Everybody piling on top of Pella, but they're just still alive. The Kiriko is keeping them sustained, and now they have the ultimate as well. And across the left-hand side, a Duck on Quack still landing those precision shots. Pella diving deep, trying to chase down Maverick, but can't land the finishing blow. Industrial with a big support shutdown. And ILIAD Artemis, not one to go down so quickly. 2 games under the belt. It is going to be 1-1 between these 2 squads. More than anything, man, it really is a duck on Quack for me. The change up between game 1 and game 2 was just transformative, frankly, for a duck on Quack. They look totally fine on the Sojourn, but as soon as they go for the swap up, it really did feel like things were just completely different. The way that they were moving about the map, using that airspace very well. I mean, you don't typically see a ton of Freya in that kind of situation, but I mean, excellent value there from a duck on Quack, shutting down a lot of what Dreamland had available, really making them go for some pretty substantial changes here. It's another different tank from Pella. We got to see the Orisa, we got to see the Ramatra, and now going over to this Winston, making a lot of value out of nothing else, getting information. What are they willing to play? What are they capable of playing? And Pella takes big damage there from the Freya shots. Managed to find the finishing touch, but that does mean that they have to back up and regroup here. Is, for the time being, ILIAD Artemis with a lot of the presence here. Winston jumps in, Pella trying to make some space. And a low health bar for Maverick means that this could be a challenging one, especially if Manually opens things up there with a railgun shot to the noggin. Industrial takes a spill. Here comes Pella on the Winston, trying to shut down this Freya, but just gets taken out. Mardox with another great headshot there, brings down this big body Winston. Even though Maverick's a little low on HP, they are still at least here. In the meantime, 30% already taken away by ILIAD Artemis in just the amount of time that Pella falls and then has to respawn, walk back in. A lot of great space purchased by this ILIAD roster. It is going to be low health bars here for Dreamland. Not the best, not the fastest healing from this Ana, but still keeping Pella sustained up top. Nobody is there to play defense yet. The backline harassment is starting to come through here. You can see Pancrase continuing to make space on this Tracer. Another great shutdown there with the time bomb. Brings down Pella once again. And that'll buy them another couple of seconds, another dozen or so percent at least. Beginning to make good use of that ultimate economy. Pella, another swap. The Wrecking Ball now is going to be the choice as they roll their way back in here. This is a great map for Wrecking Ball. Being able to swing yourself around that center platform does make for a great amount of space creation. You need to do something with it. ILIAD Artemis drops the Lucio ult, so that is going to be a big sound barrier shield for them. Mardox falling, a little bit of sustain off the table, and this could be the go button for Dreamland, especially if Manually's going to be landing shots like that. Has to dash away, has to get away from this D.Va as quickly as possible, but they get the sustain, get the teams back up, and now it's Maverick in the middle of a rock in a hard place. 99% taken away. This feels like a run back of game number 1. Perhaps in the opposite direction as Dreamland. They can't afford to give the point back away. They push very far forward here, trying to keep the roster of ILIAD Artemis in their spawn. I love this Wrecking Ball pick, so much good mobility. As Pancrase does finally swap off, going away from the Tracer, giving that one to a duck on Quack. They're going to go for the Sombra instead. Try to shut down this Wrecking Ball. This is a great potential counter. But a duck on Quack not as comfortable, it would seem, on the Tracer. In fact, it's Talisman on the Tracer that's looking very good. Gets a lot of aggro for themselves and gets a rewind off. Now has the attention of the entirety, it feels like, of ILIAD Artemis. And they've got that time bomb ready to go at a moment's notice. Just a matter of what is the retake option going to be for ILIAD. They've got another 50 or so percent before they end up forfeiting this round. So if they want to wait on a couple of ultimates, I mean, they've got time, but they're not super close to pretty much anything else. They've got the Kiriko ult ready, but still only 60% on the Tracer ult. Lucio also at about the same point. Across the way, Dreamland very comfortable in the ultimate economy. Maybe this Wrecking Ball swap a bigger change than it looked like initially. As hang on, here comes a lot of action on the top side. Kiriko drops the ultimate ability. Mardox falls almost immediately though. Pella is decimating this backline, and Industrial with great support here for the ILIAD Artemis roster, but they gotta make their way back. They have to heal up. They're so low here, they can't afford to go for the retake right now, but they're running out of time. Only 12% remaining on the objective. Dreamland, they've only got one ult available, and it is countered by the same on the opposite side, and they will use the sound barrier. This is the final moment for ILIAD Artemis. They have to get it in this push with this ultimate down, and they haven't gotten any kills just yet. Manually has that railgun overcharged right now, hunting for anybody that gets too close, trying to use support, follow up behind this wrecking ball, and a great shot there takes down the support. Mardox will fall manually with another great pick, and 99% whoever gets off the point next will end up losing it. It feels like only Maverick here to play defense, and with the entirety of Dreamland, they end up losing out on the mech, and they lose out their life as well. So 99%, the number to beat for ILIAD Artemis, and 1% over that point is going to be Dreamland. After what was an incredibly chaotic game number 1, it would only feel right for this to be a duck on Quack. This Freya swap was game-changing in game number 2. You could see just how precise they were with each one of these shots, taking down Pella on the Ramatra, forcing out the swap in that one. Dreamland now have successfully netted themselves a point in the course of our best of 5 here. Only have to get 3, and they're already pretty well on their way. ILIAD Artemis have proven that they are not a team to be trifled with, taking away 99% almost every single round, demonstrating a vast array of characters that they are comfortable playing as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this Freya ends up catching a ban going into game number 2. This was pretty much transcendent for them. Maverick as well, keeping on the diva the entire time. Even Pela going to every single new trick in the book, every single new toy. Didn't matter. They stuck with the diva every single time. It will be Maverick and the rest of and the rest of ILIAD Artemis, who now find themselves in a bit of a hole. This is not a position that they are unaccustomed to being in. They've played back from this spot before. But against a team like Dreamland, you have to be so careful. Every single game matters. You gotta wonder, as you look back at this set, if you're ILIAD Artemis, at what point do you think, wow, we really let that one slip between our fingers? What do you need to change going into these later games if you want to be able to really stick up for yourselves and force a game 5 situation, or at least extend this one to a game 4? Because it looks like a lot of flexibility in the compositions here from Dreamland. Whereas ILIAD Artemis, I mean, not a lot changed around their composition. They stuck to mostly the same supports. They stuck to the same tank the entire time. Really felt like only the DPS that changed in a more substantial way. We will get another look what map number 2 is going to be. It is going to be Suravasa for our flashpoint, so this is going to be vastly different situation, and I'm a little bit surprised by this. Instead of taking away one of the picks that they've seen, they go for the Brigitte instead, which of course does protect their own backline. So if they want to hang on to things like the Lucio that they were using a whole lot of, that sound barrier was pretty critical in maintaining their positioning in a lot of those fights. It does give them that luxury, but I don't know. We'll see what Dreamland ends up going for. See if the strategy is any different. And this was one that I was a little bit afraid of, but definitely expecting. Maverick stayed diva the entire time. There was no second tank pick that ILIAD Artemis brought out throughout the course of that one. That does mean that Dreamland, it's got to be question marks, right? Like, you have to wonder, is this the only pick that they play at this level? Or is there a second pick in the back pocket that they're willing and ready to go to? So 2 vastly different strategies here, with Dreamland taking away the toy that they have worked with on ILIAD Artemis. Artemis instead, perhaps a preventative measure, instead of just trying to shore up a hole that was already caused. It's a much more, it's a much more future-thinking strategy for ILIAD Artemis. With the way that they've been playing, with the way that their last couple of weeks have gone, I think that it makes a lot of sense to be thinking toward the future, trying to make sure that everything is riding these last couple of weeks. ILIAD Artemis, they've got quite a few matchups left ahead of them. It was quite a few that got rescheduled, pushed back a little bit, so it will be pretty much a head-to-head-to-head They're going to be playing starting here with Dreamland and then going out with a big bang in the last couple of weeks of this one, making sure that they get trial by fire to make sure whether or not they're going to be in the top 8 or not feels particularly well earned, well accounted for. We are just waiting on one final member for Dreamland. Kind of coasting a little bit here in the middle stages of this one. As we get ready to go to Saravasa, it is going to be, of course, a game mode swatch up as well, so it is going to be Flashpoint this time around. Not electing to go to New Junk City, says ILIAD Artemis, instead going for a more jungle theme, a little bit more vegetation, keeping things a little bit more antique, if you will. And Dreamland now getting to see the finish line in the distance. They've just got to get 2 more games here. They want to be able to make it into the next round with another win in the W column. Really only recent stumbles for this roster, and you got to wonder if that's just playing more difficult opponents as the league passes onward and the weeks tick by, or if it is instead just a bit of a falter here as things begin to make their way toward the latter stages of the regular season.
5, 4, 3, 2.
I was wondering about the Freya ban. Instead of Freya being banned, well, we're going to be seeing a whole lot more of Freya instead, manually. Going to be picking up the Freya here, a Duck on Quack. What I think they've looked the best on so far, so they're going to go ahead and get this one. And Maverick, as soon as the Havoc was available, no longer banned out here for Dreamland, that's the immediate selection once they get the Diva taken away. So maybe a second bit of a surprise pick for them here as they stand up on this right-hand side. Is going to be Dreamland pushing their way forward. Pella back on this Orisa, trying to create some space. It is a contested point here in the middle. Pancray actually going directly in on top of the Freya, gets the rewind off, and will be chased out by the enemy Tracer as well. And Industrial the first to fall here. Pella was lethal on this pick once we saw it the first time. Now continuing that here as they take out this Lucio. Pancray, though, gets a great pick onto manually, but Hanbei on this Baptiste. You can see why the ban was coming through as Pancray and Maverick go down. A Duck on Quack and Mardox follow. Pella and Narwhal combining for a 2-for-1 there and getting plenty of percentage on this point. That was a 4-for-0 swing in favor of Dreamland, which means that they can just push their way on out of the point and buy some space for themselves and force ILIAD Artemis to walk through the gunfire if they want to make their way back through. Hanbei on this band away pick, we'll see what they're capable of getting done with the Talisman. Does actually get sniped there. Industrial managing to pick that one off. And Duck on Quack has the ultimate available here, trying to land some long-distance shots. Pella is charging forward, knows that this Freya is a potential problem, and trying to get as much damage as possible. The heals come through and somehow keep them alive as Maverick is in the back line as well. Hanbei goes down, and Pella finds Mardox instead, now charging their way forward. And a Duck on Quack falls to Talisman, who is back here in the backline, just hitting whatever's in front of them. Even the support taking down Maverick here. The Havoc goes down. It's 99% once again for Dreamland, but ILIAD Artemis are here, are willing to play contest. They have to make their way into the point, and Pancray with a potential suicide mission here, just trying to touch down. And it looks like they're not going to get that chance. Flashpoint number 1, that goes the direction of Dreamland. It will be a migration here from these two teams heading toward this next flashpoint. The ultimate economy is favoring Dreamland. They've got 4 ready to go, while the Maverick Havoc ultimate ability is coming up fairly soon. That is one that they won't have for when this flashpoint unlocks, more than likely. Unless they can get some decent value here. Trying to get on the backside and get a pick onto Manually, but actually somehow managing to blow up Manually. Orisa with the ultimate ability comes in as well, and the Lucio ult is dropped. All of the buttons getting dropped here as everybody recognizes this is the most important flashpoint. Ultimate comes out from just about everyone, and on the winning side is going to be ILIAD Artemis. You want to talk about ultimate economy favoring a team? It didn't seem to matter for Dreamland, because ILIAD just get it done the clean, the effective, the efficient way. Now they have the point to play with. They've got the space to barter with. They've even got Havoc Ultimate still in the back pocket if they need it. So it is going to be Manually here, really tasked with whittling down some of these health bars and softening up the front line a bit, because this Havoc pick for Maverick is really paying out dividends. They've gotten quite a few pretty high priority picks, and there's going to be the ult from Manually. Doesn't get the kill, but does create some space here. The wall goes up from the Havoc, trying to force everybody out. And Maverick is just walking their way forward, unimpressed by Pella and the rest of the squad, jumping forward, trying to knock him off the map, but they can't manage to get enough value. They do trade 1-for-1, but it is Pella wreaking havoc once again on the Orisa, has Narwhal in support, and 3 members of ILIAD Artemis go down. Does mean the point flips, will begin to tick up in the red direction once again. Pella and the rest of the boys on Dreamland in the setup sentry of positions here. 3 members in the pit, everybody else scattered around, waiting for somebody on ILIAD Artemis to step too far forward. Good flank here from Talisman, just trying to draw people off, but some good shots on the Lucio. Keep in mind, they've got the ultimate ready, so in addition to buying space, they're also getting potential kill set up here. But on the front side of the fight, it's going to be Maverick that takes down Pella, so the tank already missing from Dreamland, and that means that ILIAD Artemis is now pushing their way forward. I was gonna say it looked like Dreamland were thinking about stepping up, but recognizing that this flashpoint is done 1-1, it's gonna be the score here in map number 2. ILIAD Artemis continues to impress throughout this one. Dreamland, of course, one of our top teams here in the Masters division. ILIAD are certainly proving that they're nothing to be trifled with here, especially once they've got tools like the Havoc for Maverick, like the Freya for a Duck on Quack. They've looked so good with this combination, but unfortunately, a Duck on Quack does get caught by Talisman, and now Pella is whittling away at the front line, takes down the support, takes down the tank, and everybody falls left and right for Dreamland. A blitzkrieg strategy for people fall for ILIAD Artemis, rather. The blitzkrieg for Dreamland pays off here, as they're the first to touch down on flashpoint number 3. Got the Orisa ult, has been very big value throughout this one. Is Pella leading the charge as always, trying to push everybody back. A good javelin there onto Havoc, make sure that Maverick won't be able to push too far forward. Industrial does have the ult. They've got great support ults between the Sound Barrier and the Kiriko ult. Between those two, to really make a push for this next flashpoint. But the question is, are you willing to push in and contest when it's already 60% red? Let's see what the game plan is going to be from ILIAD Artemis. They are here and in force. It's a matter of what they're willing to invest into this fight. Do drop the Kiriko ult, and here comes the Sound Barrier in response from Dreamland. Orisa ult does get thrown in as well, but a great stick there. Pancare takes down Pella with that time bomb, and now trying to whittle away one more health bar. Can't get the melee, but does manage to find the last couple of shots. Maverick takes down Manually as well, and a crack in the armor is certainly showing here for Dreamland as they lose control of the point. And Narwhal now a little bit too far forward, tried to play the hero, and Maverick will shut that down very quickly. It's another 99%er here. It's in Dreamland's favor, but anything but controlled as ILIAD Artemis strike back, take control of the flashpoint, begin to tick their way upward. Duck on Quack has the Freya ultimate. Talisman has been sticking people left and right, man. I mean, as soon as I say it, just directly on top of a Duck on Quack. And that's a big part of this backline for ILIAD Artemis, taken out of the fight immediately. Now Pella's on the scene. Maverick forced out to the high ground. That's not where he wants to be right now. Manually is going to manage to get that last hit. Narwhal with the mirror match kill. And it is left and right bodies dropping for ILIAD Artemis. Hanbei with that banned out Baptiste takes away Pancare. And it is going to be ILIAD Artemis dropping the point. Dreamland will get responsible for that one. This next point, though, does favor ILIAD Artemis on the positioning, at least for the rotation here. It's going to be Dreamland forced to push into them to get to this defense point. A little bit of a tactical advantage. Favor the blue side here. Mardox does get the initial pick here, and they're whittling down this Pella Orisa as well. That's a big pick coming just as the point begins to unlock. Maverick has continued to look incredible on this Havoc. I mean, I had question marks for if they could play anything as good as the Diva. The answer is absolutely yes. And this Havoc well earned the ban in game number 1. Industrial once again getting the better end of that mirror match kill. Or excuse me, Hazard, not Havoc. Close enough, if you ask me, but this Hazard has the ultimate. Freya also with the ultimate. Is going to be a flashpoint in favor of ILIAD Artemis. Dreamland have some buttons of their own here, and Orisa will be pushing their way forward, trying to take the 1v1 here and winning it handily, I might add, against Maverick. Pancare takes a spill as well. Manually continues to impress, just as a Duck on Quack did on this Freya, and Talisman continues to be a harassment to this backline for ILIAD Artemis, taking out both of the supports and flipping the point at about 67% in favor of ILIAD Artemis. The ultimates here for Dreamland. They've got 3 of them across the way. ILIAD Artemis still with 3 of their own, double support ults and a tank ult to use for the retake. Could be a pretty good way to make their way back onto this point. Pella already takes down that Duck on Quack and manages to force out the Lucio ult as well, just trying to force their way in, even a member down, but they managed to find one in the opposite direction, and now Pella's on the point, has Talisman in support, and Hazard is here, gets a great spear there onto Narwhal, takes him down, and manages to take out Pella as well. And it's only this Tracer, left, right, teleport, here, there, doesn't matter. They managed to get the kill, get the shutout. And a 5-player kill streak here will tell the tale for ILIAD Artemis on the retake. They didn't even need to use the Kiriko ult. They've still got the Tracer ult as well, but Talisman, I mean, you want to talk about somebody with incredible efficiency on these Tracer ults. It feels like every time that gets thrown out, it's an immediate kill onto one of these backliners. They're going to need it sooner rather than later, or perhaps it's too late either way. This flashpoint number 2 will go the way of ILIAD Artemis. We begin the mass migration process once again. Where flashpoint number 5, an airborne battle here between Narwhal and Maverick, but nobody ends up taking a spill. Instead, it's Manually that finds themselves on the worst end of that one. Maverick continues to create space here in the front side. And first onto the point, first to the defensive situation is going to be ILIAD Artemis. All of Dreamland begin to resurrect and find their way back toward the flashpoint. Talisman is in the backline as always, being a nuisance, just chipping away at this backline. Good damage onto the Kiriko and also onto Maverick here. That could be softening them up enough that the rest of the team can force their way in. They've been so elusive and so slippery on this Tracer. A great stick there, and it won't get the kill onto Maverick, but does manage to take down another one instead. Manually will get the mirror match kill onto this Freya, but Pancare is in this backline making a mess of the Dreamland roster. Hanbei will finally bring down Maverick in response, but it is absolutely ILIAD Artemis on the receiving end of the point. They looked phenomenal throughout the course of that fight, and even backing up here to get their tank back into the fray as quickly as possible. Leaves Maverick behind for just a second, but he's got plenty of mobility. They'll be back in there in no time. 35%. It's ticking up here for ILIAD Artemis, and no ultimates available for anybody on either side. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be quick. They're going to make their way in, manage to flip this point here. It does mean they don't have anything to fear just yet, and it's Manually trying to provide support, trying to make sure that somebody can live here, but a great resurrection field will keep them alive. Talisman will finally find Pancare, and that could be the opening kill here. Luciowolt comes out in favor of ILIAD Artemis, just trying to cling onto this point for as long as they can, but manually is uncontested in the airspace. The barrage from above, and combines with the rest of Dreamland and completely clears the point of any blue jerseys that were anywhere nearby. They will flip that point, even come out on the better end of the ult economy as well. Annually's got theirs, Pella, the Orisa ult as well. It'll be a very challenging retake here for ILIAD Artemis without any of their fancy go buttons of their own. They will be forcing their way in. Maverick trying to make their way through the choke point. Marduk's keeping everybody sustained up. And they will be biding their time, waiting for their moment. They've got the Kiriko ult here if they want to try to go in. A great stun onto Maverick will kind of stifle some of that, but here comes the Kiriko ult as they push their way forward. A Duck on Quack with the ultimate takes one as well, and Orisa drops the ult, can't find anybody, and a Duck on Quack is left and right picking people off. Talisman will get one in return, but the point is cleared. All red jerseys are pushed away, and ILIAD Artemis, after a game 1 loss, they take the map 2 win and make it very clear why Maverick got this pick banned away. We'll get another look at this hazard one more time, as I don't imagine that you would love to see this guy any more than you already have to if you're on Dreamland. Their great pick here. This was that time that they got the headshot off onto Pella, and then nobody left to play defense on the point after they take down the tank. We're back up to 1-1, folks. I mean, if you thought that this was going to be a quick one, well, boy, do I have news for you, because Dreamland looked phenomenal throughout all of map number 1. They did look even better on the side of ILIAD Artemis, map number 2. I wonder if that is just as simple as the hero selections. I mean, taking away things like the hazard is a very big change. But it also could be just the game mode more in favor. I mean, every time that flashpoint changed to a new location, ILIAD Artemis were on the receiving end of the positioning. They had the superior outpost to be able to play defense, and it felt like Dreamland kind of scrambling more often than not to make their way back into the situation to actually play defense. ILIAD look very, very good once they get that hazard. Because of the way that the ban system works, we'll have to see what kind of adjustments are made here by Dreamland. You'd love to be able to take away something like the Freya from ILIAD Artemis. A Duck on Quack looked very, very good on that pick, but with Manual also trying to play that pick, not sure that that's something you'd want to take away from yourself as well. So instead, they'll go for the Genji here. Once again, going for the sort of predictive idea that we saw ILIAD Artemis go for game number 1. Genji not seen for more than a couple of seconds. I do believe we did briefly see a Genji just to try to get on top of a point that was already in overtime, just try to buy as much time as possible. It didn't stick around for very long. ILIAD Artemis on the clock here, trying to figure out what their next ban is going to be. It could be something like the Tracer, because those Tracer ults were incredibly lethal. Even though they ended up winning map number 2, Saravasa did go in their favor. I mean, it was pretty darn close. 2-3 in favor of ILIAD Artemis. Every single point pretty much getting pushed to 99%. Definitely balanced on a knife's edge between these two teams, which really demonstrates the level of competition that we've got here in Season 5 of the Masters Division. Even though these two teams are separated by quite a few seeding places, that doesn't mean that the skill differential is quite as big as it would maybe seem. Especially with ILIAD Artemis now getting points up on the board, start to think that this feels a lot more doable for them. They try to figure out what this next ban is going to be. I think that maybe Tracer could be a direction that you could go in. Even taking away the Freya, I mean, as well as a Duck on Quack did play on that pick, I don't want to undersell the value that the Sojourn had game number 1 as well. They were playing that control point, had such good pressure, a couple of very big overclock kills as well. Could be a direction to go back to here. You want to take that toy away from the team of Dreamland. So it really does feel like it would be a challenging task to determine what you're going to ban away, at least from their tank, because you see so many different selections, the Orisa, the Ramatra, the Wrecking Ball. I mean, left and right it feels like. It's really hard to pinpoint exactly what pick they're going to be going for. It is going to be Life Weaver at the end of the day, so once again, one of those characters that we haven't really seen a ton of in this set. In fact, I don't believe that I've seen a Life Weaver get locked in for either team throughout the course of this competition. So we do get confirmation for what the following mat is going to be. It is going to be Dreamland selection. They have their choice for Escort of Dorado, Circuit Royal, or Watchpoint Gibraltar. I'm a big Watchpoint guy, but apparently Dreamland would prefer to take us over here to Circuit Royal. This is, of course, one of our more classic maps that we've got still available in Overwatch Season 2, or excuse me, in Overwatch 2 Season 5 of the Masters Division. This thing's evened up between these two squads 1-1, going to be the score going into this one. Every single round seemed to be balanced on a knife's edge, could have really been a coin flip going either way. It's Dreamland looking to solidify their position as that #1 seed. And of course, ILIAD Artemis working to force their way into that top 8, make their way into that playoff bracket. You gotta be a top 8 team if you want to do that. We'll be manually going back to this Freya here. It is going to be Mobutu actually taking the Freya for ILIAD Artemis, so it is going to be a swap player for player here, making a substitution going into map number 3, giving your people a little bit of time for a break as we get ready for the escort section. It's the Mauga now taken out here by Dion of Dreamland, another swap there, substitution player-wise. And, well, I lied to you, unfortunately. It is Ramatra instead, so it's going to be a mirror match of these two tanks. One of my favorite mirrors to watch is this Ramatra. It feels like they just beat the crap out of each other all throughout this game. It is going to be Dreamland now pushing their way forward, manually kind of leading the charge here, taking down this high ground and pushing everybody back. Can't find the shots there, but they are creating space and pushing this payload very far forward, actually. Getting past this initial choke point, and Talisman, with the kill there, does manage to break things open. Now 2 members down for this ILIAD Artemis squad. They've got to back up here and forfeit even more space. May only able to buy a little bit of time here. Pancray, a very different look than the Trace that we've seen from them before. It hasn't looked as good as we've seen the previous rounds, is already making the way to that first checkpoint is Dreamland. Looking very good on the attack here, opening things up pretty quickly as now Maverick has returned to the fray on this Ramatra. Getting to push their way forward. It's Ramatra on Ramatra violence, and Dion doesn't seem to know that in the backline it is going to be Pancray back on the Tracer, chasing down the backliners, and Mobutu on this Freya, pushing their way forward. Pancray takes down that Hanbei Baptiste that got banned in game number 1, doesn't seem to care. Mobutu gets the finishing blow on that Juno, and Mobutu gets the finishing blow on the Freya. And they look phenomenal here on this debut in this set between these two teams. Very deep roster, a lot of talent stacked up on this ILIAD Artemis team. Even all the way onto the bench, doesn't matter, still a force to be reckoned with. Manually pushing their way up under the bridge here. They need to get the retake on the payload if they want to make their way to that first checkpoint. They've still got plenty of time. About 2 minutes left on the clock before they time out and don't manage to get that checkpoint. It's manually beginning to shoot down some of this barrage, and they do use the ultimate as well here, but doesn't seem like it's going to find anybody. In fact, it's Talisman with that overclock that manages to get all the Gatling gun kills. 2 taken down already. Mobutu takes a spill, and Talisman a lot of space to work with alongside Hanbei. Maverick is just all alone, isolated here on this staircase, forced to push their way back. And this payload has been pushed all the way forward to the point that Maverick is now surrounded on all sides. Maverick goes down, and now without a tank to play defense, Talisman just eviscerates Stella on this Zenyatta, pushing their way into the building through the first checkpoint, and plenty more time on the clock. Everything rolling downhill in favor of Dreamland here on the attack. And they've got the overclock ready for Talisman. Narwhal has the Juno ult as well. And Pancrase drops the trace roll. Doesn't seem to find a ton of value on that one. So now Dion's ult comes available as well. It will be briefly stopped here, but really only the action stops. The payload keeps going, as it's plenty of space for Dreamland to work with, trying to chase everybody back. Here comes that Juno ult, or at least it looked like it for a second, but end up hanging on to it. Talisman and Dion will combine to take down 2 members of the blue team, but ILIAD Artemis clapping back. Pancrase and Maverick forcing their way forward, trying to get this last kill. They do manage to get it with the destruction. Hanbei will be the final casualty of this Ramatra, who continues to push their way forward. In this 1v1, Dion needs to buy as much space as they can, but with everybody collapsing around them, feels like the world is against them, and they burn the destruction of their own. Pancrase is on the receiving end of that one. They will be taking a spill, but this payload is going back the other way now. ILIAD Artemis managed to get a couple of hands on it, start to push it back, but just as soon as I say that, Dreamland is here in force. They're pushing their way through and toward this next checkpoint. They've got 2 more minutes to work with to make their way through and get it into that next checkpoint slot. And Freya on Freya crime is not going to be successful. Mobutu does end up falling to a different player. Dion will get credit for that one. Very low here is the tank for ILIAD Artemis. They end up falling, and now Dreamland just continues to do the same thing I said earlier, rolling downhill, using that momentum, waterfalling one pick into another, and they're going to push their way through into the next checkpoint. And they've got 3 minutes to play with. They're going to get to that last checkpoint and finish things off in very astounding fashion. They've looked very good on the attack. This seems to be a team that plays very well together on the aggressive foot. You can tell that they are absolutely comfortable playing around a lot of the tools that they've got available, like this Freya manually continues to put people down on this pick. They get Mobutu there. Now it's Baptiste under a bit of threat, but does manage to keep themselves alive and gets the support from Talisman, who even on the Sojourn, using the mobility very well. And now Juno chased out here. Narwhal under a bit of threat. Maverick is very deep here, actually. Hang on a second. They might have to be a bit careful. Dion will end up taking down Mardox as a result of this perhaps mispositioning by Maverick, trying to dive the backline and leaving their own backline to suffer. And because of that, this payload is getting ever closer, 87 meters before they finally get a hand on it and stop the progress for the time being. Pancrase is here on the left-hand side, takes down the lantern of this Baptiste. Now they're going to start to throw down some of those big go buttons. Dion uses that destruction ultimate. Here comes the overclock as well. Talisman finds a great pick. Hanbei gets one onto Pancrase. It is only 1 member left to play defense for ILIAD Artemis. No amount of Zenyatta ult is going to keep them alive any longer. Maverick respawns, but it's far too late. It's Dreamland on the attack all the way to the finish line. They get the money shot with 1 minute and 46 remaining, which will flip things over here. Force ILIAD Artemis not only push the payload all the way through, they're going to find some way to do it even faster. As good as this Maverick Ramatra really looked, I have a couple of question marks for the composition style that ILIAD Artemis went for here in game number 3. Stella on this Zenyatta really just didn't seem to sell it for me the same way that we saw some of those other picks. I mean, only 4,000 healing from the Zenyatta, not a great look. And across the way, Hanbei continues to pull out this Baptiste. banned away game number 1, now has that toy back in the back pocket, available to pull that one out. There's been a lot of times where that lantern really seems to come in clutch. The anti-dive is very effective from Dreamland, playing around that immortality lantern and making sure that they don't have to deal with too much of the dive. Now it's Dreamland, about 10 seconds left to go for some setup. About 5 seconds for a bit of a water break.
4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Stop the payload.
ILIAD Artemis. One member down already. Plenty of work ahead of them. They want to take round number 3 and take the lead here in the set. Still 1-1 between these two teams, but don't get it twisted. Dreamland very much still in the lead here on account of that impressive attacking performance that we just saw from them in the previous round. Mobutu is on the Widowmaker here, trying to line up a shot. This is a great opportunity to use something like the Widow. This long sight line, very good, ducking back and forth between the cover. Trying to use this choke point effectively. They do manage to push it through at least to the bridge. That seems like the most difficult place to push the payload through on this attacking side. They just completely gang up on Talisman back there and take down that Sojourn, which does open up things a lot more for them. They're going to round this corner very quickly, perhaps even ahead of the pace that we saw from Dreamland, and I thought that they got through pretty quick as well. Mobutu really seems to favor these long-range characters. We saw the Freya previously, now the Widow, and now taking down Hanbei. That's a great pick for them. And Pain Correa in the backline, as always, finding this Freya once again, and making sure that Manuely's life is a living hell if they even get to live. They'll take down Narwhal as well. They have the ultimate available, don't even need it. Dion surrounded and attacked from all sides here as checkpoint number 1 already made by the members of ILIAD Artemis. This did seem to be the one that, even on the attacking side of Dreamland, they pushed through checkpoint 1 pretty fast as well. So maybe just a strategic play. Be willing to give that one up a little bit quicker, as long as you can be beneficial in the ultimate economy. Don't want to risk going a little bit too far forward and forfeiting too much positioning. Dreamland now begin to clamp down on the bridge here, not allowing this payload to make it up the ramp, manually firing shots, but gets clipped in the head by Mobutu. A great skull cracker there for the Widowmaker, and continues to lay down the punishment. Mardox and Maverick are leading the charge here for ILIAD Artemis, pushing them back, and Talisman in the 1v1 with Maverick. That's not a winning matchup, and Dion does finally bring down Stella, but ILIAD Artemis, the damage has already been done as they push their way forward. Maverick still on this Diva once again, as we saw game number 1. They're going to resummon the mech, push their way forward. It was a really impressive time for Dreamland to make it through in their own attack, but we had Artemis looking quite good here as well. It is going to be Maverick finally taken down here. The destruction comes out from Dion, and left and right people are falling. Mardox takes a spill as well. Dion really leading this charge with that ultimate, getting a lot of value out of it, pushing this payload back. It's going to be a bit of a regroup here from ILIAD Artemis, allowing them a bit of time, a bit of space to work with here. Gotta make their way back up this ramp. Dion puts up the barrier and manually just pops Mardox for walking too far forward. That Juno did not last long, and neither did the Mei. And Hanbei continues to lay down the pain on this Baptiste. Only falling back is the thing that Stella can do, but it's not going to be good enough. They get chased all the way out, even lose that healing pylon as well. It is going to be another regroup here from ILIAD Artemis. And a great initial push, and they still have a good amount of time on the clock to be able to escort the payload forward, but this choke point with the ramp seems to be challenging to break their way through. And here's Narwhal now making the way over to the Brigitte that was banned out previously. Another character swap here. They do continue to be flexible, not be too hard on what they have been working with, making adaptations as necessary. because Maverick goes down here, I mean, this is another situation where all Dreamland can do is continue to pin down ILIAD Artemis, who are on the retreat, but Mobutu gets taken down. Talisman chases them out. Even though they get the pick onto Hanbei, doesn't seem to matter. As Mardox here now has some support behind them, beginning to push their way forward. 94% on the Juno ult does mean that they've got a bit left before they can push their way forward. Heals coming out. Maverick with that defensive matrix pushing their way forward. The payload is once again picked up. This is as far as they got it previously. They'll go ahead and burn the Juno ult and use that space laser to push their way forward. Dion does go down, so with the Ramatra now missing, this is a big opportunity for ILIAD Artemis. They take down Talisman as well, and Maverick is chasing all the way into the building here, flying forward and bringing down manually as well. It took a minute, it looked a little sketchy, but Maverick and the rest of the boys on ILIAD Artemis take down Hanbei, take down Dreamland, push their way to this final checkpoint. Got to get there before Dreamland managed to do so. They've got about 40 seconds left on the clock in order to take it all the way through, be able to take this round victory. No opportunity to back up, no moment of reprieve. That's going to be even more difficult now that Mobutu is down. Maverick buying space, but chased out here by Manually and the rest of the squad. As it is Manually posted up here on this high ground, firing off the shots and keeping everyone at bay. They will manage to dissuade any further aggression from now. And Mobutu going back to this Widowmaker here, and it's Pancrase in the back line. On the Mei, they find Manually, and that's a big pick opening things up as the shots come out onto this Ramatra. The payload is pushing forward, and 146 has already been met here for ILIAD Artemis. So they really need to get a move on if they are going to make it to that final checkpoint at all. It's Dreamland with that impressive time. Looks like they are going to be able to successfully stop out a lot of the momentum that ILIAD Artemis was beginning to generate for themselves here. Narwhal does take a spill and Manually is pushing their way forward, but I mean, Dion just seems to be going down over and over again. Whatever change that ILIAD Artemis just made, this seems to be the kicker here against this Dreamland composition. Dion cannot seem to keep themselves alive. So ILIAD Artemis, behind the defensive matrix from Maverick on this Diva, are pushing their way in, trying to make it into this choke point for this final checkpoint. 82 meters have been achieved. It is Manually. The rest of Dreamland hold up in the base, trying to hang on to these last couple of meters and not allow ILIAD Artemis to get any closer, to get any further along this progression. That ice wall from the Mei will buy some time, but I don't know how much time you've really got to work with. Mail is available. They could use that to push forward. They are going to go ahead and burn that one. Everybody is standing on the payload, trying to stop it from getting any further. But Pancrase with this incredible ultimate from the Mei, left and right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Call it 5 as Dreamland go down in a 5-0 fashion. Round 2 is in the bag off the back of that final ultimate ability from Pancrase. It's going to be 3-3. Final score there for that one. Dreamland just a little bit quicker on the draw to be able to push the payload through to that final checkpoint. Was a lot of these long-range characters from Mobutu. I don't know. I mean, the Sojourn looked very, very good when we saw that. I just have my questions for the viability of the Widowmaker map environment like this. The end result going to be that Dreamland, another point on the board here for them. A very impressive 146 time to beat on that payload. Take a look at these final scores here. Incredible amounts of healing coming out of Mardox. I mean, I talked a little bit earlier on in game number 1 about how people begin to move away from things like the Lucio toward the Juno. This game could definitely be a masterclass on exactly why that is the case. 20,000 healing going out from that Juno. We will get another round here between these two squads. Is going to be ILIAD Artemis. Pancrase pulls out this Symmetra once again. We saw this previously to use that teleport to get everybody in there. It's already Maverick on the Ramatra on the opposing side trying to create some space. make a little bit of time to work with. You can see immediately swapping off of that Symmetra, going back over to this Mei. It looked so good on in that previous round. ILIAD Artemis now pushing forward on this payload. Once again at that bridge choke point, which can be a challenging one to break their way through, but I mean, look at the aggression behind this blue team, just pushing directly underneath the bridge, uninhibited, and a great wall here. The separation from this Mei gets directly onto Dion, begins to lay down the pain. They get the Ice Cube off just in time to save their own skin. Really apply some great pressure here. Nobody goes down just yet. Manually beginning to force their way forward. They see low health bars, they know low health bars, and they want these final kills, but it's actually Dion that breaks things open for us. Mardox takes a spill, and with all that healing off the board, that makes it even easier for Maverick and the rest of the squad to go down at the hands of manually Dion and Hanbei. They had a chance, they had an opportunity, but it only took one final engagement. Dreamland solidify for themselves that final distance achieved and take out that next round victory. But it was close again, man. I don't want to... I feel like I've said this before. I don't want to undersell just how close it feels like each of these opportunities really has been, because it does seem like they could really go either way. A coin flip, the difference maker in a lot of these fights. We'll give Dreamland one more chance to be pushed out here on the escort side of things, see what they can get done in the twilight stages of this one. The Symmetra teleport the Maverick Ramatra in strategy didn't really seem to bear as much fruit as ILIAD Artemis were hoping for. We'll see what strategies Dreamland can concoct here. Able to beat the distance achieved by ILIAD Artemis. Not a lot of changes to the team composition from Dreamland. I mean, I feel like we've been seeing at least Dion on this Ramatra has been pretty consistent ever since manually swapped over to this Freya. It's been a lot of the Freya, and ever since Hanbei got the Baptiste unbanned, I don't think we've seen anything else from them. The anti-dive again, very, very good. The healing also very effective from Hanbei in this one. We release the Hounds, and Dreamland get another chance get this payload pushed forward, taking to the buildings, trying to use some of this natural cover of the terrain. Actually already very low in the backline is ILIAD Artemis. They're going to have to forfeit a little bit of space here as Dion pushes their way forward, escorting this payload inward. They've only got to make it just on the other side of the bridge if they want to be able to push through and take this round win. So it is manually and the rest of the squad pushing their way in. Maverick trying to buy some space, but these Mei walls are perhaps doing more harm than good. Maverick does actually bring down manually, but the question is for how long, how much space did that buy you? And Mabutu says plenty as they take out Hanbei. Dion goes down as well, and Pankare will get credit with that one. They have looked incredible on this Mei as well. I mean, between the Mei, the Tracer, a whole lot of good going for this player on the ILIAD Artemis side of things. They've got a minute and 17 seconds left to play defense here. See what they can amount to. ILIAD Artemis continue to attempt hold down this choke point under the bridge. Here comes a slew of damage directly on top of Maverick, trying to force out the tank here, whittling him away and forcing him into the building. It's actually Stella that goes down first on the Baptiste, and the payload is pushed through. Dreamland successfully achieving all that they needed to and making their way to a round number 3 win. A well-earned one at that. It was a bit of a slog throughout the escort stage of things. I definitely did feel like Dreamland earned their stripes in that one. What else could you say about the Pankare ultimate here at the end? A 4-for-0 turned into a 5-for-0 wipe at the end there, pushing through to make sure that they got the opportunity to force the overtime. Dreamland just looked so good with their backs against the wall. You often see that for these top-performing, top-seeded teams. Once the chips are down, that seems to be clutch time, and that seems to be Dreamland time all the way around. With that one under their belt, they advance to once again take a lead here over ILIAD Artemis. The deciding blow, the equalizing blow was dealt by the blue team earlier, but Now the Dreamland have looked this good in the escort. It's going to put, once again, ILIAD Artemis on the clock and really make it so that their backs are fully against the wall here. Keep in mind, this ILIAD Artemis roster, a team that is looking to qualify for the playoffs. They need every point that they can get here in the twilight stages of the regular season. It would be quite the statement. They could fight their way back into this one and successfully achieve a victory over number 1 seed Dreamland. It will be another swap up here of the maps in addition to the game modes, and it looks like we are going to be moving away from Circuit City and into Runasapi. This will be our push map. Once again, I'm a bit of an old head on the broadcast. I'm a big Colosseo enjoyer, but I know that a lot of people have been favoring this Runasapi map in the push section a lot more frequently. And this is a map that, if I'm not mistaken, Dreamland with a lot of success on this one as well. This one that they like to go to once they get to this stage of the game. Something that they've had a lot of success on. So we take another look here for the ban section. Each of these two teams. It's going to be ILIAD Artemis that get their opportunity to get the first ban down here and make sure that it takes something away from this Dreamland roster. We are beginning to whittle away at some of these character pools. I mean, there's been some crazy callouts between things like the Genji, the Lifeweaver. A lot of things that we haven't really seen a whole lot of. And this was my question mark. Do you take away the Freya knowing how effective it has been for your own team? ILIAD Artemis not afraid to say perhaps a little bit more effective has been the enemy team's Freya a lot of these previous rounds. The same can be said for this Juno. I mean, 20,000 healing on that one post-game screen, that is a enormous amount, and actually looks like the bans were flipped here. So it is going to be Dreamland taking away the Freya, and Juno will be banned out by ILIAD Artemis. Bit of a questionable one then. I mean, I was all on board for the ILIAD Artemis Freya ban, but it seems like Dreamland have been getting the better end of the Freya trade-off in these last couple of rounds. A lot of what has been going well for them has been manually taking to the skies, using that air superiority and whittling away not only at the tank health bar, but also landing those clutch precision shots onto the ILIAD Artemis backline. Instead, it's going to be, once again, more character flexibility shown here from the Dreamland side of things, demonstrating that they're not afraid to go deeper into the pockets and see what exactly they've got on the reserve. So we get loaded in here for our push section. It won't be Colosseo, unfortunately. It will be Runas. Wow, I could usually roll an R. Runasapi. Nope, that's not happening tonight. But regardless of how I pronounce it, it will be Runasapi that is the map that we're going in the direction of tonight for what could be the match point here if it goes in the direction of Dreamland. Only need to win one more between the push and the hybrid. They want to take away the weak victory over ILIAD Artemis. Across the way, of course, ILIAD, they need this point to be able to force a game number 5 and take us to that hybrid section. Then they'd still have to be able to win that one, so quite a tall task has been posed here to the ILIAD Artemis team. Going away from that Freya again, which has been banned away. A Duck on Quack is back here and is back on the Sojourn, which we've seen from them previously. Maverick taking to this diva once again. And Pella is Orisa, which has been quite the talking point throughout the first couple of games. Kind of bringing up the rear here for the Dreamland team. We prepare to unlock the robot in about 10 more seconds. That one's going to activate. It is going to be Maverick leading the charge here for ILIAD Artemis, but it seems like a lot of the positioning really favoring Dreamland as they've got a lot of these choke points available. It is going to be Pella pushing back Maverick on this robot. They've got a little bit of assistance from this Cassidy, but manually takes a big burst there. Can't quite find the headshot that they were looking for. Have some assistance though, and they will be forcing everybody back. Point is locked at about halfway. Dreamland do finally put enough members behind this one to begin pushing in their own favorable direction. Manually continues to push their way in, and what a great stun there, taking out Industrial and a Duck on Quack. That's both of the members of ILIAD Artemis taken down without any amount of response. That will really crack things open here. Dreamland a little bit slow on the initial push, but definitely managing to open things up and get some very good distance out of that one. 40 meters now already under their belt. Still yet to be contested by ILIAD Artemis. They've got to regroup. They got to wait till everybody's ready. On the flank here is Pain Correa back on the Tracer. They need to make some space for themselves. High Noon coming out here. Hang on! Can't manage to find anybody with that one. Pain Correa will manage to take out manually, and that Cassidy is now off the table, but Pella seems to be a big problem for this ILIAD Artemis team. They're in the backline. They're making space. Now they're pinned down and pushing forward. Just 1v1ing Mardox, even with the assistance here from Hanbei. The heal's not enough. Because of Maverick also falling, that is going to be, once again, a bit of a stopgag here in the potential retake for ILIAD Artemis. Gonna wait till everybody gets back and gets grouped up again. And this first checkpoint has already been met by Dreamland. They've got plenty of time left to continue to push this one further. Mardox does have the Kiriko ult available, so they do have a good retake opportunity. Industrial now has Lucio ult as well, so they could continue to... Actually, hang on a second, ganked here on the right-hand side. Orisa jumps in and creates some space and pulls everybody in. They don't get any kills, but they do force out the sound barrier in response, and that's a big tool taken out of the toolkit here for ILIAD Artemis to try to retake. But a Duck on Quack opening things up with a pick onto manually means it is now numbers-wise favoring ILIAD to push their way forward. A big collision in the hallway. Pella just jumping their way forward, chasing down a Duck on Quack, and they get that pick in a short amount of time. And now it's Mardox tasked with keeping Maverick alive. They burn the Kiriko ult, use the movement speed, use the attack speed, trying to keep everybody pushed up. They aren't even back at the halfway point, but the robot is very much in their own favor now. As they make their way back to equality, at least the middle of the map. It's already scooped back up by Dreamland. I mean, Manuel's just taking out the backline of ILIAD Artemis, challenging them to the 1v1s, winning them every single time, it feels like. And Narwhal on this Brigitte that got banned away previously does manage to take out one more. They push their way forward here. Once again, accumulating some distance. ILIAD had flipped the robot for just a bit, but they only got about a meter out of it. Across the way, Dreamland making excellent use of their space. A Duck on Quack just skeet shot out of the air. Pull, and here comes the trigger. And Talisman as they lose the Tracer for ILIAD Artemis. Dreamland pushing forward once again. They have the High Noon, they have the Orisa ult. They have the end in sight as well. Got plenty of room to work with. Here comes that High Noon trying to get an angle, but everybody behind cover. Doesn't look like they're going... Well, as soon as I say that, Industrial peeks out a little bit too soon and does end up falling for it. So now 2 members down for ILIAD Artemis as Dreamland push their way through this choke point. And they've got ultimates on ultimates on ultimates ready to go. Narwhal's going to use one of them here and try to get directly on top of Maverick. And the Kiriko ult comes out in response. Mardox burns that one just to try to create space for the retake. But Pain Correa is on the back line here, trying to use this invisibility. Does manage to get a good flank here onto Manually. This could be big if they can successfully bring them down. That's been a big problem member taken out now for Dreamland. And Pella has turned around here, does seem to know that the Sombra is behind them. And been getting incredible value, I might add. Successfully chasing out the Tracer, getting a couple of good picks, including one on Pella on this Orisa. And then we'll once again flip things in favor of ILIAD Artemis. It is a tall mountain to climb here for ILIAD Artemis. They've got 1 meter to their name. Across the way, Dreamland have 137.31 meters. So quite a lot of distance they'd have to claim. As Maverick considering a long flank here on the right-hand side, attempting to get an opportunity to push their way forward and really open things up for their squad. Doesn't look like they're going to get the opportunity. Instead, here comes the hack from Sombra, and they're pushing their way in. Hanbei manages to answer back with a quick stop gag onto a duck on Quack, and that's a big part of the offense taken out for ILIAD Artemis, so that Sombra ult basically neutralized here as they manage to push their way forward. And Pankare is chasing down. Hanbei is feeling the pressure, but has a little bit of space to work with, and even finds Maverick on this Diva, isolating them and taking them out of the mech, taking them down as well. Now it is Dreamland back on the attack here. Hanbei is behind everybody, making sure those health bars are topped up. It's ILIAD Artemis with only 1 ultimate. They have the Kiriko ult again. Have to determine whether or not they're going to be able to push their way back into this one. Duck on Quack once again falling in the 1v1 to Talisman. Has looked very dominant on this Tracer. ILIAD Artemis, 3 minutes to go. Plenty of distance left to cover. As Talisman continues to harass the backline. Can't quite stick the time bomb. But does manage to at least provide some pressure. Keep that distance alive. All they have to do is remain on the aggressive, not allow ILIAD Artemis to push in the opposite direction. That is going to be curtains for this blue team's hopes. So it's going to be backs of Maverick, backs of the rest of the team of ILIAD Artemis. Find their opportunity, find that perfect moment, and it doesn't look like it's coming anytime soon as Mardox takes a spill. Talisman finds one, Narwhal finds another one onto Pankare. This is a lot of space created here for Dreamland. In fact, forget playing defense, they're just going to push the payload even further forward, now taken to almost 140, and the Lucio ult comes out. Here comes the High Noon, but can't find any value out of it. Diva ult, a great answer to that cooldown, making sure that nobody can step forward. Narwhal continues to impress on this Brigitte, pushing back the members of ILIAD Artemis. We finally see the Genji, and it's a Duck on Quack piloting it, and it's a Duck on Quack that won't be able to find any additional space, any additional time. In Dreamland, the payload section successfully coming to an end, giving them the 3rd point that they desperately needed. We'll get another look here. I'm assuming this is the double kill manually gets in the building here at the beginning of round number 1. And that's exactly what it was. Industrial and a Duck on Quack just kind of isolated in no man's land there and taken down in short order. Dreamland, now with that 3rd point in their pocket, they should be advancing to 11-2 on the season. ILIAD Artemis, now that they have finally seeming to run out of gas, now advancing to 5-8 here in the end stages of the regular season. This will, of course, make it a little bit more challenging for them to be able to find their way into the playoff bracket that we've got coming up a little bit later on in July. Definitely no lack of talent, no lack of passion on this squad. This is a team that fought their way back in against the #1 team and definitely looked dominant in several of these games. I mean, don't forget about how effective they really looked throughout the course of some of these earlier games. It just ran out of steam a little bit later on into the bracket. These best of 5s can be very grueling throughout the course of these games, making sure that you have to be locked in for hours at a time. Dreamland just more up to the task this time around. But if you had any questions for whether this one was going to be a close one, well, there's your answer. It was a 3-1 showdown between Dreamland and ILIAD Artemis, but I mean, the score really doesn't tell the tale for exactly what took place between these two teams. Dreamland was incredibly dominant in some of these games, with ILIAD Artemis no slouches of their own. I mean, they looked phenomenal in a lot of these games, especially in the escort section. I thought that they looked very good in that section. and particularly once we got to Suravasa and those flashpoints, their rotations to these flashpoints were spectacular, and they were always a little bit ahead of the curve, but Dreamland really stuck it to them in that push section, made sure that they finalized that final score. So 3-1, your last score, and we'll take a look at the schedule coming up here because we got plenty more Overwatch 2 action coming for you guys a little bit later on, and it is going to be on 6/27, so that is Friday, that we'll be seeing ILIAD Helios versus ILIAD Artemis. One more good look at this ILIAD Artemis team in a division rivalry, we'll say, between ILIAD, Helios, and Artemis. That should be a good one. You're definitely not going to want to miss that one. That one's going to be taking place just about the same time this one was, only on Friday, so plenty of time for you guys to stay up late, grab some popcorn, have a beautiful evening of Overwatch action. But that is going to do it for us here on the broadcast. It has been a great one. It has been close games all the way through and plenty of action to watch. So on behalf of myself, on behalf of Headrammer and Hippie, a little bit back behind us doing the production, pushing all the buttons, doing the hard work, I have been Kaizo. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you guys in the next one.